Oh, hello there. How does it come you approach me at this lovely evening right in the middle of this definitely not haunted forest while I'm sitting at the fireplace? Can I take it that you're in for a little ghost story? Very well. Have a seat then, my friend. The story I'm about to tell you is one that happened to my mother back when she was just a little girl. After a few years of living in a very small apartment, my future grandparents and mother moved to a bigger one, where my mother finally got her own room. It was a quite narrow and elongated one, not a ton of space, but it was hers and she was proud of it. Her bed was placed at the end of the room, directly under the window. The door was on the other end, but sideways. The window had blinds, though they were wide and not really thick, so it never got completely dark in that room. Then, one night, it happened. My mom just woke up from a bad dream. Still a bit confused, with her eyes getting used to the weak light, she saw her mother standing on the other side.
Mom? What is it?
There was no response. Then, as her vision was getting clearer, and she was finally truly awake, the little girl realized that this was not her mother. She had never seen that woman before. There was a complete stranger standing in her room in the middle of the night, staring at her. Unlike the encounters in your typical ghost story, this woman was not translucent. She looked like a normal person with a body made out of flesh and bones. My mom can't recall all the details anymore, but she still remembers that the strange lady had short curly hair and was a bit more on the chubby side. Would she have seen her at a sunny day somewhere outside, she would have appeared completely harmless. But it wasn't the case. It was night. It was my mother's private room, and she was silently stared at by someone who shouldn't have been there. And after a split of seconds, the fear was getting stronger as my mother realized that the woman wasn't even really standing there. She was floating a few centimeters above the ground. After the first shock was settled, the frightened girl got herself to switch on the lamp next to her bed. As she turned her head around again, the woman was gone. Completely vanished, like she was never there in the first place. For many years, Mom refused to sleep in that room again. Her parents were forced to take her bed into their bedroom. They were asking her what was wrong, but my mother remained silent. The reason for that was the time they were living in. Nowadays, if someone says they think they might have seen a ghost, people would just laughing or calling them crazy, or in some cases you might even find someone who takes you serious. Back then, this was different. People weren't talking about stuff like this. Those things simply weren't allowed to exist. And if you would have said that you have seen something that shouldn't be there, you could have landed in a mental asylum before you even realized. Despite the fact that even the most sane people could have an hallucination once in their lifetime. The treatment for children might have been a bit different, but also very strict. Most psychologists back then would not give you the typical "that child has such a strong imagination" thing. The most of them would have claimed that something is wrong with this child and they need to fix that, probably with medical treatment. My mom was too young to be fully aware of that, but a little voice in the corner of her mind was saying to her, "Don't tell anyone." My grandma, of course, was at a loss. She took my mom to lots of psychologists. But when they asked her why she doesn't want to sleep in her room anymore, she simply claimed that she was afraid when it was dark in there. Nothing more. Of course, that was a hard time for her. Having no one to talk openly about the things you fear, real or not, can be a real torture. It was when she was already an adult, as she finally opened up to her parents and told them what really happened that night. Was it real or not? There's no evidence for both theories. But there's one thing. Years after that night, my mother discovered that the woman from the couple who lived there before them, in fact, died in that apartment. So, did you like my little story? Excellent! Then you should give me a like, comment, subscribe, and ring the little bell to get notified. Or else...